Welcome to Well Yes. I'm Walter, founder at Ham Nutrition and absolutely wellness obsessed. And I'm here with
Sarah Greenfield, functional medicine dietitian and microbiome obsessed.
Sarah. I'm so excited about this podcast because we're talking about what I think will be the buzzword of 2026. So this year was all about GLP-1s. The latest and greatest, the next one is, in my opinion, and or in our opinion, peptides. I think they're everywhere. That's a huge buzzword. And before we even go there, I want to read a legal disclaimer. I never do this, but I really want to do this for this one because I just want to be very clear here. Peptides, in the way, shape, or form that they're being sold and prescribed, are often under for research purposes. And I just want to make this really clear. We're not recommending anyone to take peptides. They're not approved. There are some loopholes under which people get them through mainly compounding pharmacies, but they are everywhere. People are talking about them. So I do think we want to talk about a wellness trend that's here and have a conversation about them. But again, this is not to say we're recommending them. We just want to have a conversation about the buzzword of the moment, which are peptides. So I just want to make sure we are very clear here. And also, like, if you have any questions, please speak to your healthcare to a healthcare professional, speak to your doctor, and do not self-experiment. However, it's an important topic. It's everywhere, and I do think we should talk about it. Anyway, Sarah, what's your perspective?
Well, it's in the beauty industry, it's in the gut health world, it's in recovery. I mean, it's really touching all parts of wellness. And I think it's important, like you said, to explore just from a research perspective what this means and just understand like when somebody says peptides, what is that? Just anytime we can use our critical thinking to assess a trend or to assess how it's being told to us, it gives us more power because we're understanding through the lens of how is this important for me or how can this benefit me or is this going to be problematic for my body? And that's always the best place to be in.
Yeah, before we unpack peptides, I just want to mention, like, I really noticed a shift when I recently had a dinner party, a few people over, and this friend of mine started talking about her experience with peptides. And I don't think I've ever heard a room that was very noisy become very silent very quickly. And I was like, wow, there's a real interest. People are really, they're searching for something here. Clearly, there is something missing within health and wellness, and peptides seem to have hit a raw nerve, which we would like to sort of like, explore a bit further. Um,
Yeah.
Curious,
I've
like,
I
like,
had a conversation with a friend of mine recently who is very, very conventionally minded. Like he's always doing everything by the book. What the doctor says, that's just his way. And he recently went through a bout of chemo for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and from this experience has now really gotten enmeshed in more of the wellness world and just looking at outside ways to support his health because he was like, after chemo, I just felt horrible. My body was so different, and he wanted to look at how to explore it. And he ended up working with a doctor. She's a board certified doctor and she's doing peptide treatments. And I was so interested just to hear his experience. I mean, it's a little bit different than what we're talking about today, but they're doing like genetic mapping and custom peptide combinations. So I don't think it's anything that's going to be going anywhere. But to your point with the disclaimer, from a dietitian perspective, it's not something that I can say, oh, yeah, let's do this and inject this. And I mean, the semaglutides are very well studied at this point. So we have a little bit more wiggle room with that. There's more research there, but the other peptides that are a little bit more fringe or not as well studied. We're unpacking peptides. It's an important conversation. It's here to your point. It's not going anywhere. I think the research is just going to continue to get stronger and it's a trend and a practice that I'm really excited to follow.
great. Well, I think you bring up a really important point here, which is I think semaglutide, which technically is a peptide, I believe, right, has probably accelerated two things. First of all, peptides became, a bigger topic of interest, but also for the first time, I would say we have normalized or popularized, if you will, the idea of injecting something on a regular basis. I think that's really the key here, because when it comes to peptides specifically, these are like short chain amino acids, I believe, right? But they're very hard to get into your bloodstream. So like if you take them through your food, they're not necessarily getting where they need to be, right? So this idea of injecting something, that's really where I think we have seen a big shift in people's behavior. And I do think that drugs like Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, all that have played a huge role here, changing people's perception of like what actually things do for you when it comes to like, moving from ingestibles to something you inject actually. And I do think they play a big role here.
Yeah, and we do. I mean, my all of my alarms and red flags go up when we're bypassing all of our natural forms of defense and going directly into the bloodstream, which is why I think it's important that you had that kind of disclaimer, because when we inject something, we really, really have to be aware of what's in it. We really have to understand why we're doing it. It's there's not
One
as much wiggle room with an injectable. As a dietitian, and when we think about bypassing our natural forms of defense from taking something orally into an injectable, it's really important to be very educated and aligned with a practitioner that's going to be able to guide you in this, because it's going directly into your bloodstream. So it's you just don't have as much kind of safeguards in your body when it goes directly into the bloodstream.
So again, please don't self-experiment. Please
Yeah.
talk professional before you even like explore this further. And again, we're not endorsing or recommending it. We're just talking about a trend that's here to stay, in our opinion. And let's talk about trends and numbers, maybe. According to a recent study, 1 in 8 adults has tried a peptide. So that number shocked me right there. This is like 15% of the population, almost like 12.5%. Uh,
Yeah, and I would say that's probably due to the semaglutides, like you said, the tirzepatide, the Ozempic, these weight loss forward peptides. I mean, GLP-1 is the P is peptide. So this is a peptide, and it just has such a huge prevalence now in our culture, and it does have such a positive impact on people's health.
and it's an interesting world. There are lots of letters being thrown at you, and you're right. They always often contain a P for peptide, and then a few numbers. So BPC 157, I hear a lot. CJC 1295, GHK CU. There's something I saw the other day, which is called the Wolverine blend or something like that, which is a combination, I believe, of BPC 157 and some other stuff to really get people stronger
Yeah.
and fitter. But I don't know, when something is getting marketed as the Wolverine blend, I think that's when the alarm bells should go off, I would say.
I
Uh,
mean, it's like anything, right? Like there's always a big excitement and like, this is it. This is going to be the thing that solves my health. And we've seen that be pretty impactful in the semaglutide world. Like it has been a pretty wild and crazy and safe drug for people to use. So I mean, it's pretty incredible. And I think as we move forward, there's this really cool part of peptides being able to kind of be in this personalized nutrition conversation. And that's also, I believe we've talked about it before, that like the trend for the next 5 years, maybe 10 years to me in the nutrition space is personalized nutrition, like looking at your blood, looking at your stool, and really getting clear on what do I need specifically for my body. So I think it's really exciting when we start talking about, oh my gosh, this is a way to personalize exactly what your body needs by these peptide blends. And again, critical thinking.
Critical thinking. But you know what we can do though? We can offer some advice here around like how to support that journey through nutrition. Because I do think
Yep.
what we have to understand is like the peptide by themselves, they're like really potent, but also it's important to ensure you're getting the right macronutrients and micronutrients alongside of the peptides. And let's maybe start with the most um, widely used peptide at the moment, which is probably semaglutide, I would imagine, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
How should one eat alongside while being on a GLP-1?
The most important thing that you want to consider is maintaining muscle mass, because the GLP-1 is shutting off your hunger cue. So people often eat a lot less, which is why they're losing weight. And when we eat a lot less, we have to be aware that our body's going to break down fat, but it's also going to break down muscle. So having adequate protein, typically the recommendation is like 1 gram per kilogram, but on a semaglutide, it's higher. It's about 1.2 grams to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. And that just gives you higher access to protein, ideally lean protein, like eggs, tofu, chicken, fish, things that your body can break down and utilize to preserve muscle mass. So, protein is really important. Eating frequent and small meals because we want to make sure that you're getting high quality nutrients. So, I think about like what are the most nutrient dense foods that you can include in your diet. So, things like salmon, dark leafy greens, eggs, nuts, seeds, sweet potatoes. Those are going to give you kind of the biggest bang for your buck. And when you're in a weight loss journey, we want to make sure that you're getting fed really well. Your body doesn't, I mean, it's going to kind of go into this starvation mode, but we don't want it to go too far because then that impacts your liver. And like I said, then your muscles start to break down. So we want to preserve our body's health and well being.
And then I think another macronutrient we should talk about are fibers, because quite frankly, what happens a
Yeah.
lot, like, we already don't get enough fibers, period. So 95% of us don't. And then on top of it, I would say if you're not semaglutide, you're probably, it's 100% really. And getting those fibers in, and there's such a thing as Ozempic constipation, if you will, right? Where people just
Yeah.
don't get regular bowel movements. So ensuring, in addition to like, and plus, if you add all these proteins, right, and you're not getting enough fiber, you really will
Right.
be feeling those side effects. So really important to consider fibers, whether they come from nuts, seeds, oats, veggies. Just keep those in mind to support your overall gut health and keep things going. How
Keep
about
things moving out.
healthy fats? Do they play a role?
Absolutely. Healthy fats are really important for anti-inflammatory properties. Avocado, olive oil helps balance our hormones as well. So it's an important part of the conversation. It does make you feel full quicker. So
Mhm.
fat is very satiating. So I would kind of cut back a little bit on the amount of fat, but definitely include that in your overall diet.
I mean, basically, it's just eating a healthy diet. We've been talking about this over and
Yeah.
over again, and I think there's a pattern here. Like, just make sure you get enough fiber, proteins, healthy fats, and I
Yeah.
think in a good
And
spot.
eat frequently is probably another good one. Like with a semaglutide, you are going to be on a little bit of a higher protein diet and eating more frequent meals because you can't rely on your hunger anymore because it's basically being turned off. So making sure, yes, you're still going to lose weight, eating frequently is going to be really beneficial.
That's super helpful. Now, let's talk about like another peptide here. We covered semaglutide. Now, CJC 1295 plus ipamorelin. Is that how you pronounce it?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
what what is it, and why are people taking it? And again, we're not endorsing this. We're just like covering the
Just
most,
exploring, yeah, just
talking about
exploring the
what
why.
people are doing. Tell us all.
Yeah, so people are using this for recovery essentially to build muscle, to stimulate growth hormone. That's probably the best thing that it does, which is going to help just our body recover more quickly. So, for this one, from a dietary perspective, we want to really focus on protein. Doesn't have to be as high as that semaglutide, but about 1.2. You could do 1 to 1.2. So just like a slightly higher protein diet because you're dealing with muscle turnover, recovery. And the key here is keeping blood sugar levels stable because the reason people are using this is to boost growth hormone so that you're getting bigger muscle gains, better recovery. But when you have imbalanced blood sugar levels or high blood sugar, that's going to deactivate growth hormone. So, from a dietary standpoint, we really need to be in that stable blood sugar control zone. So, complex carbohydrates, not too many, fiber, protein, healthy fats, the things that are all, like you said, part of the balanced diet. And then we can also think about nutrients to increase collagen production, like zinc, magnesium, potassium, vitamin C. Those are all going to be really important for cell turnover in that recovery place and promoting adequate sleep. And sleep too. Like, yes, we're talking about food, but prioritizing good rest and having good, I like the term sleep hygiene habits. While that's
Mhm.
not something we're eating, that's really important for natural recovery. And our growth hormone, whether we're on a peptide or not, spikes at nighttime when we're sleeping. So, getting really good, adequate sleep will just enhance the effects of this peptide combination.
Got it. So good night's sleep and maybe a steak and sweet potato for dinner.
You
Is that
got it. Easy peasy.
proof? Got it. All right. Let's move on to the next one or next two. BPC 157. I hear that one all the time. And KPV.
Yes, this is one I'm probably the most familiar with outside of the semaglutides, just because its direct target is for gut health and decreasing inflammation. And I've seen it in a spray, or people will take oral capsules. But I think the most effective way for this one to be transmitted is through the subcutaneous injections. Pretty much peptides across the board. The most effective delivery is always going to be subcutaneous, and this one is no different. So
I
when
heard.
we think about diet, I kind of want to paint the picture. Like, why are we going to use this? If we're having digestive issues, it can be very beneficial. And we need to be aware that we might be more inflamed when we first start this. And having something that doesn't put a lot of burden on the gut, like really high fiber, tons of probiotics, tons of prebiotics right at the start, is usually a really good place to begin. We don't want to overload the gut because we're inflamed, and that can put more burden on the body. So sometimes if you're in an active flare, or if you're really in a lot of pain from digestive inflammation, starting with low FODMAPs for the first couple weeks can be a
Mhm.
good place to start. And then you can build to higher fiber, to the probiotics, to prebiotics when the gut is a little bit quieter and there's not so much pain. And that's what you really want to lean into, is like, okay, now that my gut is healing and it's feeling better, how can I really start to diversify it and bring in this balance and get it to be more resilient?
So if your gut's a construction zone, think fiber and fermented food as the sort of building crew.
Yep.
And I also like, I mean, at BPC 157 specifically, I heard that a lot with athletes that want to deal with like joint pain and knee pain, etc., and they inject it specifically in those areas. But it is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, a hormone that is made in the gut. Is that correct? And then it's like where.
I think so as well. I mean, they're going to use that for that really potent anti-inflammatory effect that it has. So that would make sense if they're injecting it into site-specific places.
Yeah, but again, we're not endorsing, we're just saying these are the foods you should eat alongside. All right, moving on to GHK-CU. That's like probably collagen and skin health. That's another big topic when it comes to peptides. And obviously, collagen has been around for the longest time, and collagen peptides are on
Yeah.
pretty much every supermarket shelf. But what we're talking here is probably not the ingestible form of collagen.
Yeah, this is one that's kind of more, since it's in the beauty space, you're going to see it more in like topical creams and serums, where people will use it for microneedling to get that deeper penetration. And also subcutaneous injections are where it's going to be most effective. So you can add in, if you're using this for collagen building, skin health, you can add in collagen peptides. To your point, it's going to, like, your body will utilize them if you take them orally. So having that along with an injectable or a topical can just enhance your overall benefits. Doing things that promote collagen growth naturally, like citrus fruits, berries, because of that vitamin C, bell peppers, kiwis, broccoli, those are going to boost vitamin C levels in the body. And your basic healthy foods are going to be important too when you think about your skin. Getting healthy fats, seeds, nuts, fatty fish, salmon, sardines, anchovies, those are all going to be important. And then copper intake, making sure you have enough copper, which you can get in foods like cashews, chickpeas, dark chocolate, and mushrooms.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of like stimulating healthy skin with nutrition, as you can imagine. And like hyaluronic acid is another one which I truly like, specifically since you can take small doses and
Hmm.
they do work wonders. So that's another great one to stimulate healthy skin and to get your glow up basically. All right,
Hmm.
there's another one here, TB500 and sermorelin, which is probably something in the sort of more the performance athletes, etc., or faster recovery. It's well known for that. Tell me a little bit more about this one and what people should eat alongside.
Yeah, so this one is going to help with tissue repair, decrease inflammation. It also will boost up growth hormone, and it also aids in blood vessel formation. So, to your point, if you're an athlete, if you're somebody that's working really hard on your physical body and you're wanting to get some additional support to decrease inflammation, to build muscles more effectively, this is used for that purpose.
Got it. And again, like, keep in mind, like, when you take something that promotes growth of cells, of body cells, it, sometimes is not the body cells you want to grow. So I just want to make sure people are aware of
Yeah.
that too. And we're not endorsing any of this. We're just saying this is the trend. And to eat, probably, I would imagine, high protein diet alongside those could be beneficial too, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so beautiful about food is that you can get a lot of these benefits from really focusing on what you're putting in your body, which we've obviously talked about a lot and it might seem simple in theory, but when you go to actually implement it, it's really hard to make these changes that maybe don't always taste the most delicious or they're pleasurable and they're lighting up all your dopamine centers, but you're nourishing your body. So for this one, yes, higher protein intake, complex carbohydrates because that's going to help with muscle growth development and energy, antioxidants for inflammation. And then I've been recently exploring more just with spirulina and chlorella, and they promote superoxide dismutase, which is a big um, antioxidant in the body. So that's really good for mitochondrial health. And when we're thinking about performance and cell turnover, we really want to have our mitochondria being high functioning and well taken care of. So that's another thing that you could add in for
I'm a
this.
huge fan of spirulina and chlorella for so many, and it's really rich in nutrients, but it also can remove those heavy metals from your body basically because they bind them. Just make sure if you get one, it's from a clean source because the water in which they're grown is really determines the quality of the green algae. And I just want to call that out. We have it in our daily cleanse formula. It's a really good one, and I'm a huge fan. It really is a game changer, as they say. All right, let's do a few myth maybe that we need to debunk here. Let's do a bit of myth busting.
All right, let's do it.
Um, okay, this one, myth one, peptides replace the need for diet.
That is a big fat no. You still need to eat, clearly, as everything we talked about in this episode. But if you were just taking peptides, you wouldn't get any of your other macronutrients. And so it's really important to eat alongside your peptide.
Yeah, and then similarly, peptides build muscles even if you don't exercise and don't eat enough protein. What's your perspective?
No. If you don't have any, like I said, with the variety, if you don't have any protein, you're not gaining any muscle.
Another one here, yeah, and quite frankly, I mean, like, you just need to exercise too, right? You can't just expect like,
Yeah, I mean it's not just for weight loss. Like
yeah.
exercise doesn't just have that one function. It helps you sleep better. It helps you move toxins out of your body. It decreases inflammation. So it's really important to have that as part of, yes, you're building muscle, but it's also so much more than that.
Now, this one I'm really curious about here. You can't gain weight while on a GLP-1.
You can. I mean, I think if you really sit down and try to, you can, especially if you are not going to kind of eat that diet we talked about. Like if you're really focusing on the sad American diet or refined carbs, high sugar, you can potentially offset the benefits of a GLP-1.
Got it. And last but not least, collagen peptides are just hype. I hear that a lot.
No, no, we know from research, I've looked at many different studies that say they are like collagen we make in our bodies, and it's a part of the skin matrix and the skin structure and elasticity. And taking collagen peptides does help enhance that. So it's not a myth.
All right. Let's go to our well yeses and well nos for the week. Sarah, why don't you start?
My well, yes, is taking and incorporating algae into the diet. I really do like spirulina and chlorella to help with all the things we talked about: detox, energy, mitochondrial health. So that is a well, yes for me. And my well, no is ordering peptides off the internet and injecting them into my body. That's my well, no for the week.
Well, I'm similar. My well no is like for me, it's like when you inject something because you're literally bypassing all the natural defense mechanisms of your body. Please don't just like go out there, go into a Reddit group or wherever you find your information, and then please work with a healthcare professional. And that is really my recommendation here. I also want to call out that because I was looking at that, like when it comes to like long-term safety. We have seen that with GLP-1s because they have been around for quite some time, specifically for people with diabetes, right? So there is long-term data.
Yeah.
But a lot of these peptides, I just couldn't find any data. And it doesn't mean that they are necessarily bad or good or don't work or work. But what it does mean, there's definitely a lack of evidence, and there needs to be, I would say, definitely more work to be done here because clearly the interest of the public is there. And I do hope that people will fund research in the space to look at obviously the benefits, but also like long-term safety. I think that's what's really missing here. And my well, yes, in general is like just like really leaning onto research before you make any of these decisions. Please work with a professional. Please make sure the research is solid, and any healthcare providers should be able to navigate you here if they're serious. So these are my well yeses, my well no. Like one is being like really like research first, and the other one being a little bit like more cautious when it comes to anything that you inject.
Yep.
All right. Already rapid fire. Sorry, you know how this goes. Let's do best foods for weight loss peptides. So we're talking about the Wegovy's and tirzepatides of this world. Scale 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Let's start with Greek yogurt,
9, high in protein and probiotics.
quinoa,
7, you're going to get good fiber and minerals from it.
avocado,
6, healthy fats and supports hormone, but can make you kind of full.
eggs,
10, high protein and very nutrient dense.
berries,
7, but they have great antioxidants and fiber.
dark chocolate,
6,
bone broth,
9, really good for hydration, and it's going to give you a good blend of amino acids.
green leafy vegetables,
8, that's really important for liver health and gut health.
protein powder,
8, I usually like whole food forms of protein better than protein powder, but it's still good if you get a clean one, like something like Core Strength that you guys have at home.
a fiber supplement,
9,
pastries,
0.
and then pumpkin seeds,
Pumpkin seeds, 8.
and last but not least, kiwi.
9, because it helps if you're constipated.
And it's super high in vitamin C, really good.
Yeah, kiwis are amazing.
I love kiwis as well. And did you know they're like male and female plants? I didn't know that before because I was considering planting one, but they're like apparently. So
Wow, go kiwi. I love that.
yeah, anyway, I have to double check that, but that's what I heard. Okay. But just to summarize, real food, like a healthy diet goes a long way, whether you're on peptides or not. And as always, please work with a healthcare professional if you are more interested when it comes to peptides. Sarah, this was gold. Anyone on peptides needs to hear this before their next meal. I just want to thank everyone for their support in this episode here, specifically our producer, Brooke. Sarah, any last words of wisdom?
No, I think it's just really, if you're considering peptides, like you said, do your research, think about how it's going to impact your body, and really lean into food as nourishment.
100%. And if you like what you heard today, please hit subscribe or drop us a comment, share this episode with friends. We are here to support you in your wellness journey. Massive thanks to Brooke, our producer, and our production assistant, Fatima. Until next time, eat smart, move intentionally, and take care of yourself from the inside out.